trigger warning. This episode will be talking about some sensitive issues. Not exactly us around them on the sensitive issues, but mentions of depression, my personal experience with grooming, mentions of suicide, rape, and stuff like that. I'm not going to be directly talking about some of those, but, it is mentioned. So, quick trigger warning. Just an overall trigger warning because there is some triggering comments in there. And yeah, that's it. Enjoy the episode. Hello guys, welcome back to Mental Notes of a Young Adult. This is your anonymous host, back at you with another episode. Hope you enjoy. Today's episode is titled, If You Need Help, Reach Out. And this was the episode that I was talking about that might be a bit sensitive, I suppose. It does get, I said the trigger warnings in the beginning, so you guys kind of know what to expect. Just to liven up the mood before I get into the, subjects that are going to be a bit dark. I wrote down a couple things where like, I put them as interesting side notes for podcast because sometimes I'm like, I want to add some stuff to, just thoughts that I've been having. And here are a few ones. So I went to Little Caesars recently and I got a pizza and I was like, since when is it not $5 anymore? I was tripping out because I had $5 exactly. Like I had a $5 bill and I'm like, okay, I'll go get a pizza. I'll pay for the taxes with the few quarters that I have in my pocket and I'll do that. And I was going to be like, okay, here you go, $5. Here's the taxes, whatever. And then they bumped it up to $6 or $6.50 or something for the normal one, which is like thin now, like the crust and the bread. And the extra most bestness, which is a normal pizza, what used to be $5, is now $8.49. Like what the hell? Like Little Caesars, you have been consistent every single year, and now you have failed me. Like this, I have had terrible year these past few years. 2019 was a disaster for me emotionally. 2020 was a disaster. Period. 2021, I don't even remember, but it probably was very bad. In 2022, it's not that bad, but this just added to the badness. It went from bad to worse, and I am very upset. I wanted to get some pizza. Now I had to pay with my card, which I didn't want to do, but I had to. And I cannot express my upsetness. And here's another one that I wrote. Adults writing okay instead of okay. Like the letter okay instead of OKAY. And I don't know. Like I find it more threatening or more like passive aggressive, more like just not as just it seems angry to just write the letter O and the letter K together. Like if you're writing that out, you're telling me that you're either mad at me, you're upset at something I did, like a margin of that. Unless if you're a teenager, because my dad uses it and he's like, okay, and I'm like, why did he say it like that, But like when someone writes OKAY, it lets me know it's like it's an approval. It's a friendly approval. And they're letting me know that it's okay. They're letting me know that this feeling that they feel is neutral. And it's more of an affirmation rather than, anything else. But just writing okay lets me know that you're either very mad at me or you're very mad at me. That's what it means. To me, that's what it feels like every time I read it, And yeah, those are the two ones that I wrote. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyways, back to the subject of the matter. Now we're going to get into the deeper sides of the pool. The reason I titled this episode is "If You Need Help, Reach Out" was because I thought it would be important to talk about mental health for a young adult. We often overlook that. I mean, for me as a male, we're always looked at as like, oh, you have to be the head of the house, or you have to be the rock, or the stable one, the emotionally, physically, and financially stable one. You have to be consistent with how much you have in your day-to-day life as a man, and we often forget of a simple fact of the matter is that we're not perfect. We don't have a perfection. We're just human, we do the same things just as everybody else, and by everybody else I mean women. By women I mean literally women, and I didn't mean anything else by it. It's just I'm literally just talking about women. Yeah, like women are like, oh yeah, they're the emotional ones, and they don't want to, women don't want to see men cry because they'd be considered little bitches. No, being sad is okay. There's nothing wrong with crying or reaching out because you feel like shit about something, or examples like that. And we always feel the sense of like trying to impress, and I've been a victim of it. I'm like, oh yeah, like, oh, I need to impress this girl because if I need to seem like the type that is emotionally stable or whatever. But being emotionally stable doesn't mean that you never cry, because we forget that there's literal, like, there's so many emotions. It's not just if you're sad, oh yeah, you're an emotional person. That's not an emotional person. If you get angry a lot, you're an emotional person. If you're happy a lot, you're an emotional person. If you get sad a lot, you're an emotional person. If you get scared a lot, you're an emotional person. Or, I mean, no, not really. Scared doesn't matter. Let's forget scares. I was just using the inside out like logic. Emotions come from like, what's it called? It's not just sadness. If you're a sad person, that doesn't make you an emotional person. Just you're sad. It's an emotion that you have. Now there's a thing where you're constantly sad. That's called depression. You'll have that a lot, and people will have a lot of it. Some people are diagnosed, they have it since birth. Some people have it because of a trauma. Some people have it because of something else, and it gets to that issue. And oh my god, sorry. And sometimes we forget that we have to try to impress. I mean, me as a guy, I have been a victim of trying to impress someone and pretending to be okay kind of thing, and then I realized that doesn't really matter because, like, being sad is okay. And besides, who the hell are you trying to impress? The only person you should actually start trying to impress is yourself. Like, nobody fucking cares. Not a single person in this world. Nobody cares. If you're cool, cool. If you're not, cool. Just, if you're proud of your own progress, if you're proud of what you do, then that's all that matters. And you shouldn't feel like you have to live to an expectation that you feel you cannot reach, or you feel like others are looking up to you to reach and you can't. It's an expectation. You're not superhuman. Even if you're told that you are, you're not. You have the same aspirations as someone else might, but we're all different people at the end. Some people cry more than others. Some people don't. Some people are a little cheerier. Some people get angrier quicker. Some people don't know how to handle their emotions. Some people handle their emotions extremely well, and stuff like that. Trying to change your emotions, of course, can happen. Like, if you're overly sad, you can try to that. I mean, that's personal preference. Like, you're constantly sad and you don't want to be sad anymore. You kind of practice yourself to tone it down. Or being angry. That's called anger issue. Which I feel like it's kind of loaded to say anger issue, because in that case it would be kind of like, a happiness issue or a thing. Hot tempered, I can believe, because anger issue to me is like you don't know how to control when you're angry, and hot tempered is when you do it and it just happens, you know? Well, no, because that'd just be anger, you know? Like, I get angry sometimes. I punch the fucking floor. I punch myself just to not harm anyone but myself and realize what I'm doing is stupid, kind of thing. And that's kind of the control of anger issue. But if you have a thing where you can't physically control your anger because of how angry you get, that's a different thing, you know? There's different stages to anger. It's, you know, it's, what's it called? There's like a tamer version of anger. It's just, you know, being pissed, being angry, being mad. No, mad, angry, furious, and infuriated. I don't know. I'm making those up. You know, I'm steering off. But, you know, there's things for that. You know, there's resources for people who don't know how to control their anger, or don't know how to control their sadness, don't know how to control their emotions. You know, they're very emotional people. And by emotional, I mean, okay, you know, I kind of contradicted myself. You know, we're all emotional people, but there's people that have expressed their emotions more freely than others, shall we say. You know what? Yeah, never mind. I'm changing what I'm saying. Emotional people are people who, you know, have a lot of... Oh, wait, no, I didn't contradict myself, because I was just talking about, like, an emotional person being just a sad person. That's not the case. I think an emotional person is a person who's constantly feeling emotions, you know? That can range from, again, anger, sadness, and happiness. Okay, now just clearing that up for myself. So, yeah, emotions. You know... And we, you know, sometimes we do want to change. Sometimes we do want to become better on how, you know, we... Hold on. Let me think of my words real quick. Sometimes we do want to change a thing that we have, and, you know, that's something that we always try to change, because change is okay, you know? There's nothing wrong with it. And sometimes, you know, people say that pressure can be a bit, you know, grueling, overwhelming to some people. But, you know, the best person to pressure you is yourself. If you're not pressuring yourself to do something, then you're not really trying, you know? And you might say, oh, yeah, I'm trying. But it's more of an excuse of like, I know this is wrong, but I don't want to stop doing it. And I like it. So I'm not going to stop, you know? And self-pressure is kind of motivation. I guess that's another word for it. Like, for me personally, I like doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing, you know. Well, just stuff that I have a problem with, you know. Like, I'll open it up right now. Masturbation. I had a problem with that for years and years, since, you know, a very young age, an unfortunate age. And, you know, I've been trying to stop, or I've been trying to degrade the amount I do it. And it got to the point where it's just kind of like a de-stress thing, instead of like, I need to do it, you know? It's more of a, you know, if I'm tired, I'm tired. I don't, you know, I don't even think about it when I'm tired, you know? Or when I'm just scrolling through social media, I see I guess, revealing picture that I'm like, damn, that girl kind of bad though. And then I'm like, fuck it, and then and then I do it. Like, it's more of a, you know, a stress reliever more than anything. But it used to be bad. You know, I would do it maybe twice a day. Probably. I might be, you know, exaggerating a bit, but it was definitely a lot, you know. And twice a day doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot, you know. Once a day, I think that's the perfect amount. If you do it more than once, you're clinically addicted. There's no way you're not. It's terrible. And I don't mean coming, you know, that, like, you know, finishing is a different thing, you know, like, you're in a relationship, you'd finish a bunch of times. That's not masturbation, you know? I mean, you could be philosophical and be like, yeah, you're fucking masturbating to a flesh, but it's stupid. You know, it's the self-pleasure that kind of gets, you know? And I was talking to a friend about it, how people get to that point, you know? Like, for me, at a young age, it was like, I had seen a lot of it. I need to reach out, because this isn't good enough anymore, you know? And it would go on and on and on and on to the point where it was just, I was getting to territory that was, not okay, not illegal, but not okay, and it got to the point where I was like, I was pushing in kinks. I found out about kinks at a young age, and I started experimenting with them. And, this came to the point where I, ended up, no, actually, it just got scaling. And then it went to the point where it was like, now I want to try it, It's like, what is the hype around this? And, I got a girlfriend and everything, and I never really expressed to her my fetishes or anything because I didn't want to make her uncomfortable, or I didn't really want to just touch that area, I guess, because to me it was just, I want to get my dick wet kind of thing. It wasn't much of fetishization or just being into stuff like that. It was just like, I want to know how it feels before I do any of that fun stuff, quote unquote. And when I did it, because we ended up doing it, I'm not gonna lie, it was fantastic, and I enjoyed it a lot. My first time, it went pretty okay to me, maybe because it was literally just the feeling of finally doing it was, it was tiring. I'll admit that. But I felt great after it. And then we did it a couple times, and then she cheated on me. We're not going to touch that subject. But that happened, and after a while of thinking about it, I was like, that was my first time. That was the first time. Wait, hold on. Okay, just checking what mic was picking up, sorry. That was my first time, and she did this to me, and this happened, and now I don't feel okay. I feel incomplete. I feel just like I was ripped from something that was, unique to me, which was my virginity. And I personally do regret losing it. I mean, not really, because it was kind of like, it felt good to just get it out of the way, I guess. And it applies more to girls, the whole virginity concept, because, in religion even. But, like, it still didn't feel as good as it did emotionally, because sexually, it was whatever, it was like, oh, yeah, sex, whatever. But after finding out, that really hit my heart in a different spot, and it wasn't, it wasn't cool. That was not cool at all. And after a while, I just came to terms with it. I was like, this was stupid. She was stupid as well. I was stupid. I kind of caused her to cheat because I said some dumb ass shit. Okay. I'm not gonna repeat what I said, but trust me, it was stupid. And honestly, I blame her for cheating, obviously, but it's like, I kind of understand why she would want to separate, but instead of, just telling me, it's like, I don't want this anymore, she straight up just did it behind my back and never addressed it. But, whatever. It's in the past. It happened like fucking 4 years ago. So I'm not too bothered, And, whatever. But, yeah, that was kind of a thing that happened. And after a while, I had moved to, another country, and I met a girl there that, at first I didn't really think of much other than, she was a cool lady, because that's what she was. And, I ended up, having a crush on her after that. And I think it was mainly because she didn't have the nicest personality, to be honest. She had, I guess, a really nice body, and she liked me back, kind of thing. So to me, that was kind of like a win-win, I guess. But, we were talking. I was young. I was a teenager. I was underage, and she was overage, really overage. Not like in her 30s, but, she was older than me by a big scale. And we were talking. We met through a kind of crazy place, and we were talking. It's like, oh yeah, I like this, and like that. And then I found out that she liked the same things I did. And I'm gonna give you guys the whole context. So this, sounds as awful as it is. We went to church together. She was a very important person's daughter, and a very important asset to the church's daughter. And, I was underage and she was old, and, and she had, I liked her body, I guess. Yeah. It wasn't much of like emotional, because she didn't have she had a cool personality, but she wasn't like, oh my gosh, we're identical kind of thing. And I was naive, to me it was just young love, I guess. But, ironically, it was just my side of love, whatever. And, one thing came to another. We slowly started putting two and two together. I started falling for her sexually, and she was like on top of the thing to sing, the choir people, I guess you could call it. It was a small church. She would go up there and sing. She would preach about God. She'd do all this stuff, and then she's doing all this stuff with me, who me, a burning soul, was doing, And in a religious aspect, what she did was wrong, and technically there's nothing wrong with what I did, because I was underage. There's really no spoke to me. But it got to that point, and we'd hang out, because we were both from that little friend group, and we'd hang out, and we liked each other, and we touched each other a lot. And it got very physical, I guess. And not physical in the sense of like, just hugs and kisses all the time. It got physical, what you can imagine. And it was, sorry about that. It was like, I guess, I mean, back then I really didn't think about it, because I saw it as okay, because, it was a completely different culture, and I didn't think about it. And in my head, I'm like, I can't, like, what's happening to me isn't grooming. I'm not getting groomed. I'd be smart enough to notice when I'm getting groomed. This is actual emotion. I actually like this girl. But no, I did get groomed. And, I became in denial, but that, again, that's kind of what grooming is, just being in denial the entire time. And, we have to pretend like nothing happened, because if it did, it would have ruined both our reputations, mostly hers, because, but it's just such an awful thing to cover up. And it breaks my heart to even think that I have to cover it up, because it's such an awful thing that happened to me. I wouldn't say traumatic, but it definitely was up there. And I don't know. And I really never had anyone to talk to about it. And I guess this is the only outlet I can share it in. But yeah, it was hard for me. It was really hard. After I understood what happened, I tried understanding why she did all of it after I grew up a bit. And I told her, it's like, why did you do this? What was your, like, why did you want this? Why did you do this? Why did this happen? And why were we interacting this way that we did? And she tried to shift blame. She tried to just make me feel like I was the bad guy. Like I was the one who caused her harm. And I believed it. That's the... Sorry. I believed it. I really did for a long time, and I believed that I was the reason it happened, and I convinced myself that I was the harm of that entire thing. That I'm the reason it all happened, and that I am the one who's attacking her, and then she's the victim. And my gosh, it was tough. It was tough dealing with that, and I ended up blocking her. I told her fuck off, and I blocked her because, you know, I believed it for such a long time. Like it was like 2 months, and I'm like, I'm a fucking rapist. I'm an idiot. Like I did these things. Like I've committed so much harm to a person that did so much good, and now I'm out here attacking a vulnerable person, and I genuinely believed it. I believed it. But after after thought of it, I told myself, it's like, that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. What you did was not your fault. What you did was not something that you triggered, you know? And after a while, I was told by her family members that one of her, struggles was like lust, I guess. And I mean, I didn't tell their family members, but it was kind of like that. We were talking about it one day, and they said that was kind of their struggles, or her struggle. And after I kind of did trigger it, but in the end, I wasn't the one who was at fault here. She harmed me. And even if it sounds like, I don't like blaming, I don't like pointing fingers. I've always hated pointing fingers, but she really harmed me. She did she did she did a lot of harm to me, and it was hard, and accepting the fact that I wasn't the bad guy, it was bad. It got really bad, and it fucked with my mental health a lot. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's move to the next bullet point. That, by the way, if this experience sounds a bit, it hits home, and I didn't full on cry, but it did really, like, the tears were forming. So I'm sorry if it wasn't like a full on acted thing. I don't like crying, I guess. But if you've experienced something like that, please speak out. Please speak out. It's an awful thing to experience, and it's an awful thing to bottle up. And I can tell you from experience. You deserve more than bottling up those emotions. You are a strong person, and you have fallen for a person that has attacked you. You were vulnerable, and you were weak, and you were, just, easy bait. That's not your fault. You're not at fault on that. And it took me a long time to realize that, but you are not at fault. I was never at fault. There was nothing wrong that we did. We think we did wrong, or we think that stuff like that really did affect us or affect them emotionally, and we were the bad guys, but we're not. Please speak up. Please tell your friends, tell your family members, if it's someone important, it doesn't matter. That's an awful thing to bottle up. You need to tell someone. You need to. And I should take some of that advice for myself. I truly should. But, I prefer you doing it first before me. You do it first and then I'll do it, kind of thing. If you do it, I'll do it. But it's just any trauma, if you've ever been a victim of assault victim of, rape or something, and it, something like that, of that example, please speak up. It's an awful thing to experience. It's an awful thing to have bottled up, and it's an awful thing to just not talk about. Just please tell someone. From me to you, listener, please speak up. If you need help, please reach out. And, this might seem like a good time to stop the episode, but I still have some other bullet points, so we're going to continue. Yeah, so my next bullet point is talk to your doctor to understand your mental health better. I feel like that one's really important, especially because of how we, express our things, your doctor will give you the best examples, the best, what you're actually diagnosed with, not what Twitter tells you, Like if you have OCD, if you have ADHD, if you have depression, anxiety, you have schizophrenia, you feel like you have it, go tell your doctor and he'll let you know. He'll tell you what you have, And even if you feel like self-diagnosing or if you feel the need of self-diagnosing, that's fine. But it's better to have, medical proof before just the feeling, because to me, most of the time, it's like if you kind of self-diagnose that, you guys remember the whole, like, the freaking, all the white girls were like diagnosed with depression. Well, they self-diagnosed themselves with depression because depression was like the move or whatever, and they were like, oh yeah, I think I'm a little depressed, I've been thinking about suicide, and I really think I want to kill myself. Like, no, you fucking don't. You're an emotion. You want attention. Just fucking say that you want attention. But I mean, like me personally, I've struggled with depression since I was like 9. I've been struggling with it for a while, and it's mainly like it kind of just triggers just on its own. It's kind of like an anxiety attack, and I am diagnosed. I got like this thing it was kind of like suicidal depression. Well, it was suicidal depression like 3 or 4 years ago, but then I went to the doctor again, and they told me it was just normal depression, or it toned down to like just a tranquil version of depression, just like there and there sadness. But I do get the suicidal tendencies, I suppose. But not suicidal tendencies like, oh, I want to fucking kill myself, but it's like, why am I alive, kind of thing, And it can happen for days, weeks, even months, and it's a struggle thing. It's a struggle that I have been struggling with for a while, and I hate people acting like they haven't. And at first I was like, I didn't know what it was. I was young. I was like 9, It was my parents had gotten divorced, and we had moved away really, really far, and at first I never processed the reason they got divorced, or why, or how, or when, until I grew up and I became conscious that my dad and my mom were never getting back together. And that's when it kind of hit. It was more of a I don't have dad anymore kind of thing. I was separated from my dad, and we'd go summers, we'd visit him and stuff, but it just never felt the same from not having a dad, And I had a stepdad in, as a supplier, not a supplier, a freaking, what's it called, a substitute. But, it still never felt the same. And then when I moved with my dad, I was missing my mom because, my mom was always there for me, and my dad never knew how to raise a kid because my mom took us away from him so long. So he just, after struggling living in, this awful country we live in, he was struggling, he was bitter, he was annoyed, he's disgusted with the way his life was, and he'd take it out on me. Not, with punches or anything, but he'd passive aggressively affect me in a way. And he'd always tell me, it's like, no, I don't want to affect you directly. I don't want to be an influence to you. I don't want to affect you to that, because you're still growing, and I don't want you to be bitter like me. But it rub off sometimes, and his personality would be super, gross, and oftentimes just I wouldn't agree with it. But if I didn't agree with it, I was a shitty son, and that's kind of what I was living with for a while. And then I became bitter, and I kind of fed off his energy, and it was just bad. And my depression just kept on getting worse and worse from there. And I almost didn't. I almost tied the noose. But thank God I didn't. I really thank God I didn't, because then I wouldn't be making this podcast. I fucking love making podcasts. But it's a thing. It's a real thing. You want to talk to your doctor about this, because then you never know. I didn't want to. I didn't know about it. I knew I was sad, but I thought the sadness would just go away for a while. But then after a while, it just didn't. I was depressed for 9 years. Well, I wasn't diagnosed at 9 or at 10 or 11. I was diagnosed a little like my freshman, sophomore year. That's when I was really diagnosed. And then a few years after, I was diagnosed again with, what's it called? That I was lowered down. And it wasn't 4 years. Sorry, it was 2 years. 2 years ago. Yeah, it was 14 when I got diagnosed, 16 when I did the check again, and, it depleted down. It downgraded. And I'm 18 right now. I was 14 when I got diagnosed, 16 when I got re-diagnosed, and 18 right now. I should go again, actually. But, it was like that. And, your friend, you might think, like, self-diagnose is like, it might not seem like important, because, maybe it's just a phase, maybe it's just a thing that's going on in your head, and you're just fishing for attention, because that's sometimes what I thought. But maybe it's not that, maybe it isn't. But if you show your family and your friends, it's like, I have this thing, and I want you guys to be patient with the way I am, because I can't help this. It's a mental illness, and I want you guys to be patient. And sometimes your friends and family won't judge you, unless you were born in a culture like, I don't know, like a Mexican culture, where they're like, I gotta relax. It's like, it's not real. It's just a figment of your imagination. You should mop around the house a bit, and maybe your sadness will go away. But no, most of the time, your family and friends will be, accepting. And if they don't, you're better off with people that will treat you better, honestly. Because if you're stuck, with your family, you can't really change the way they are, or the things they do, because of what is affected by you. But you're better off just not associating with your family. I've seen a lot of people who are just, as soon as they can, they get away from their families because of how awful they are. I mean, I can't speak from my own personal experience, because my family's awesome. Not trying to brag. That sounded so mean. I'm sorry. I personally, I haven't, been a part of that, but I know my friends, some of them, as soon as they turned 18 and graduated, like, boom, I'm out. I'm out of this city. I'm out of you guys. I don't want you guys interacting with me. You only ruined my life, And not one of those, like, oh, they took my phone away, I hate them kids. They were like abusive parents, and the kids wanted to leave. That's the kind of, residence. It's not spoiled pricks. It's actual trauma and pain and, insecurity, like, brooded through that family. And if your friends are just as toxic as your family, they're like, why are you wearing so much makeup? Or why are you hanging with a crowd of people? Or why are you acting so feminine? Are you a faggot? Like, I use that word in a more expressive way as an example. I don't mean to offend anyone. I feel like saying that it just makes it a bit more offensive. If I tell you if I'm part of the community, does that make it a little less worse? I don't know. Nobody should really be using that word, but you know what I mean. Just very homophobic family. You want to run away from your friends are extremely homophobic. They're racist because they think it's funny. They think that 9/11 is not 9/11. Sorry, like communism is the way to go, or some shit. Like, you have awful friends and you need to cut them off. I'm telling you. Or you'll know it when you see them. If you personally don't feel comfortable around your friends most of the time, or you don't feel comfortable telling them, are they really your friends? Think about it. Like, knowing them for a long time doesn't mean you're friends. It just means you know them for a long time. Like, I'll use an example of mine. I had a friend for, I don't know, 6 years, probably more. And, we were best friends, and, we had a couple bad experiences. We did some things we shouldn't have, and it scaled from one way to another, and it was just awful. And, she cut me off, which I felt like shit about it, And at some point in the future, I confronted her. Not in the future, in the past, for me right now. You know what I mean? I confronted her, and I was like, hey, I know we haven't talked in a while, but, I try to make her understand that I feel bad about what I did in my past, and I understand why she cut me off, and I understand why she did that, and I offered trying to become friends again. And we tried for like about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but then she had to cut me off again. And I respected it. I respected her decision more than anything, because it was more of a, like, I understand the harm I did to you. I understand what you've been going through, and how it affects you, your personality, your moods, your everything. And realistically, I don't want to be a bad influence, and I want you to live your life as best as you can, and I don't want to be affecting you in that aspect. So, you can cut me off. We'll stop talking. That's fine. And if you ever need me, you can find a way to contact me. Just unblock me, I guess, and just, let me know. I'll be here for anything, and, yeah. But oftentimes it won't be that case, It'll just be like cut off, boom, you're out. And that's good too. You don't have to give an explanation. Sometimes you don't owe them shit. But, she was grateful that I understood, and I'm grateful that she explained this time, But regardless, it's important to you and to everyone around you that you realize yourself how important you really are. You're a barrage of emotions, and you have things that will happen to you. Some of you have traumas, some of you don't. Some of you have experiences that will affect you, and some of you have experiences that will make you better. And it's all in the mindset, But in the end, if you do need help, please reach out. The anonymous speaker commands it. If you really do need help and you need someone to talk to, there's always a person. And I'd give myself up, but I doubt you guys would trust me with a freaking, with a quarter in the ground. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, always reach out. Your friends are there for you. Your family's there for you. Just find a way, And, I'll conclude with the mental note. Today's mental note, or this episode's mental note, is it's okay to want to hug. It's okay to want to cry. It's okay to feel weak. And it's okay to have a lazy day. Your mental health is just as important as your physical one. So focus on it as best as you can, because it's the thing that will keep you moving. And with that, I'll conclude the episode. This is episode 5. If you need help, reach out. Please reach out. And hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for tuning in. As always, this has been a mental note of a young adult. See you guys.